It's time for Around the Ozarks Sports Scene, sponsored by Fast Break Sports and The Pitch. Here's your host, Scott Puryear.
Welcome in to another edition of Around the Ozarks Sports Scene. I am Scott Puryear. As always, big thanks to you for listening this week. And a special thanks to our sponsors, Fast Break Sports and The Pitch. We'll talk more about them at the end of the podcast, but always appreciate them jumping on board and allowing me to talk sports with key figures in the Ozarks, and, of course, with holiday basketball tournaments around the corner, this being our last podcast over the holidays, we bring on, he's your friend, he's my friend, he's the sports editor, sports writer, sports columnist, probably prints the printed edition of the paper in his apartment. We'll deliver it to your front door if you subscribe now to the print edition. He is Wyatt Wheeler. Wyatt, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, I'm there. I will personally deliver it to you, and sometimes that's not a good thing. So, yeah, I've had some very bad threats in my time doing that.
Will you wear different outfits if people request? I mean, like, on Valentine's Day, maybe some man lingerie, or, if you get some of the weirder people out there, or is it just going to stay Wyatt Wheeler sports writer attire? I'll
wear a diaper with and we'll shoot a newspaper off a bow and arrow on Valentine's Day. I'll dress up as an elf here in the next few days. So that's just part of the business, man. You got to keep it alive somehow.
A bunny on Easter, Uncle Sam on the 4th of July. Your favorite scary Halloween guy. Yeah, and there's all kinds of things. I hope your bosses are listening, because these are all great ideas to increase subscribers. So.
That is a great idea. We've been thinking. I think about print so much that I just need to go. I need to save it.
There you go. Well, wanted to talk about kind of get caught up. It's been a few months. Love to bring you on and catch up with not only the high schools but Missouri State. We'll talk some of that and everything else. But I know that you will be stationed at courtside for the Blue and Gold coming up December 26th, the start of that. I believe it will be, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then Monday on those?
Yeah, no, that's post-Christmas. That's every single year, and I love it. It's a very fun few days. So parked just courtside at whichever gym's has the better game on that first day, and then won't leave Great Southern Bank for the rest of the time.
Well, you look at the seedings there in the Blue Division. Kickapoo, Rogersville, Ozark, and Hillcrest are 1 through 4. In the Gold, Nixa, Republic, Hartville, and Stratford, the top 4 seeds over there. Did the seeds go as you expected? And any controversy there? Because I used to thrive on that controversy.
Well, the thing is, when I go to this every single year, everybody brings up Scott Puryear when I open my mouth. Because I am trying to find a way to get Jay Osborne to play against Catholic, or Jay Osborne to coach against Nixa, and find those little ones in there that can be really fun. And they're all like, "Oh, we have too much respect for these people." Do you know Scott Puryear? And I'm like, no.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're a soft society now. There's too many good guys out there. Not enough. When I did that, Mark Fisher got it. He understood, because it was in the interest of driving more crowds and attention and interest. Maybe there were 2 guys that didn't like the matchup. The 2 head coaches, but there were 2 whole towns that were like, "Oh, we got to go to this," and
Yeah. The kids want it. The kids who used to watch it, and how much do they really care? How much do these coaches really care? Jay's great friends with Brock.
Yeah,
it might be more fun than you think, but no, we didn't get those. But I think the only thing you look at with the bracket by when we made them was if Nixa was deserving of the 1 seed when it hadn't played a game yet, and Republic was just coming off of a win over Central. I think that was the only thing that you look at. Maybe Logan Rogersville's a little more in that conversation when John Schaefer's as good as he is in that tournament, and they're coming off the Final Four appearance. They might have the best player in the area and their sophomore point guard. So there is a little bit of a conversation, but I think once we threw Nixa there, and Nixa's played the way it has in these early days, when it went down to Arkansas, kind of proved us right there. And, Republic can play Nixa in the championship again and prove that it should have been number one. So no problem on either. No problem with anything. I thought it was one of the better seeded things we've done in a bit.
Well, what I like that they still do is they separate conference teams as far as they can. So, I mean, you look at this, and if the seeds held true, you'd have Kickapoo, Hillcrest, semifinal, Rogersville, Ozark. Of course, Ozark and Rogersville not in the same conference anymore, so that works. And then Nixa, Stratford, and Republic, Hartville, and those are all intriguing, unique, different matchups. I like the fact that they separated Nixa and Rogersville because, we may be headed for a Nixa Invitational championship matchup with those two down there.
Yeah, you can only do it as much as you can these days because everybody's in the COC. So it was a little difficult when you're in it. I mean, you never know what else is going to change in the near future. But we usually like to keep Kickapoo and Hillcrest separate, but they're not even in the same league anymore. When you only have two SPS teams in this field every year, which I hate, but it's just like Kickapoo and Hillcrest don't have a scheduled game in 2024-25. So if they can meet in the semifinal, and Hillcrest could have a tough matchup in a quarterfinal with Fair Grove, when Fair Grove is kind of in its early days getting its football players back, when those were their better players. So just a lot of trying to build that to be as fair as we could, and keep some matchups separate when they're on the schedule. We had some matchups looking like they could have happened in these days before the tournament that we had to separate. So it takes about an hour to fill those out, and you have Chris Parker from the Ozone in there who knows what happened in a Kickapoo game on February 16th in 1978 because he knows everything that goes on in the Ozarks and knows the history front and back. But it's a pretty fun process that I get to be a part of every year.
There's a reason you and Parker are regulars on this podcast, because I know where to turn, to make me look like I know what I'm talking about. And you're right, Parker can tell you the backup catcher at Summersville, and what grade. Yeah.
I say it all. I say it pretty frequently. Chris Parker is the most valuable sports person in this town. Just what he does with the Ozone, and I hate that he doesn't like getting some of the spotlight, some of the love, because I don't know what the Ozone would be without him, and It's KY3 kind of goes off of what he does with the planning for them, and he's so good at what he does, and he needs a little more love. I'm glad you have him on every once in a while.
Well, and if he ever goes in the portal at KY3, they're screwed, But
oh yeah,
I do like Sully. Met him a couple times. Nice guy. I think he's a great fit for the area too. So I'm going to get him on here in the coming weeks. And you were talking about Nixon, whether they were worthy. You and I have talked. I did go down there for a couple games last weekend, just a little getaway to go see our son in Fayetteville and catch some Nixa games. And it's amazing that with 3 days of practice, what Brock Blansett was able to put on the floor, in winning 3 straight games. And the win over Conway on Friday was probably one of the more athletic teams they'll face all year. And, the Harrison game, they just blitzed them. And I think Harrison was in their 10th game of the year and had, 6 or 7 kids back from last year. And Brock was without 6 of his top 8 because they were football players. Bryce Foster and Jace Combs were the 2 that were available. I think Jace had battled some injury stuff there in the preseason too. But, boy, they looked like they were, mid-season form at, 3 games into the season.
Yeah, I caught a little bit of some of their streams, and we know Brock's going to have them ready at some point. We just didn't expect them to have them looking that way already. Just so many athletic guys. McKnight's going to bring rebounding energy every game. It's just a matter of when shots start to fall, and the Flint brothers are as athletic as they come. Chase Combs starting to really show something when we know that Combs' last name has been so good for Nixa in recent years. But it's a machine over there. You know that they're gonna, it's gonna be one of the best in the area. Just didn't expect it to be that fast, and really impressed with they did with what they did, and they're a real threat to win their third straight tournament. They always seem to have it ready to go by then, even when they've had these deep football runs. But no, that was really impressive to watch them.
I believe they're down in Florida and playing maybe tonight or tomorrow night, but I know Nick's Alive has got a crew down there carrying it too, so if people want to see how they do there. But a couple names to watch with them, Lane Meltebarger, the tight end from football, and Ty Kellis. I think he was a linebacker in football. Kids that, because they don't have 6'8" Jackson Cantwell inside for rebound anymore, those are guys that are going to have to go to the board, and they did a good job of that in Arkansas. Of course, McKnight's going to get his rebounds, a double-double average last year. But being smaller, they're going to have to rebound a little harder with everybody. But my gosh, they like to run, and they'll get out, and they'll, if you want to up the pace with them, good luck with that because they're going to go right with you.
Yeah, and you look at some of how many big men are there that's pretty dominant, especially in their gold division. You'll look at the Uhl kid from Republic, broke out kind of as a decent tight end for the Tigers this year. Was hurt for a lot of these first couple of years he's been at Republic. I know I think he might have been at Cassville before, but he's someone to watch if they get deeper into that tournament. How are they going to handle Colin Clark when he plays? He plays a lot. He'll post you up, and if they end up running into Greenwood, so. Those kids are going to have to be physical with some of these better big men if they're going to want to make their third straight run. If
you get a Nixa-Hartville final in that would remind me of like a 15-year-old permit driver in a car. Gas, brakes, gas, brake. Is Hartville still want to keep that thing, in the 40s and 50s?
Yeah, and they make you play the way they want to, and that's another interesting matchup that could come into quarterfinals because Willard wants to do the same thing as Nixa, and Willard's going to be trying to run up and down to four. That's as good of a 6 seed as I've seen when we've done these brackets. I think Adamson's a great coach over at Willard, and they want to run, they want to shoot threes, and they might have Hartville come quarterfinal time. So that's one that you got to watch as well, just kind of see what could you have to face down the line if Hartville's able to get past those. And Hartville, of course, bringing some guys back from another state championship team.
The Blue Division, Kickapoo, we know Jackson Shorter's back. What's around Jackson this year?
Reese Kimry is one of the better guards in the area. I think that he's got a really good he's really started just watching them play against the number one team in Class 6 this past weekend in Kansas. I think that was Blue Spring, or it was Shawnee Mission Northwest. Had a 6'10", 4-star, top 50 player in the country, and they were able to shut him down a little bit. You just see the team just connected already, playing at a high level. Kimry's knocking down 3-point shots. You're seeing all these other guys break out around him as well. Shorter has gotten a lot more aggressive, and I think he looks a lot better than he did a year ago already. So I think Kickapoo's got a clear path of winning this thing. Some other teams in there, whether it face off against Rogersville, Ozarks looks much improved. Branson had a really good tournament last year. See what they can do this year. But, man, Kickapoo looks like those Mitch McHenry teams where he gets those guys running and playing really well, moving the ball already. To where that's been the most impressive team I've watched through these early weeks.
Speaking of breakouts, Jackson Shorter's brother Braden is breaking out at Washburn right now. Did see where he's had at least one, maybe a couple 25-point-plus games for them. So in this age of portal life and D2 guys going up, he'll be a guy to watch maybe after this season with some D1 looks in that regard.
Yeah, and there's just something about the Shorter brothers that break out and have great senior years, and we saw Braden do that a few years back, leading Kickapoo to a state championship runner-up. So just watch it. They are impressive. They are playing the high-level ball we come to expect from Mitch McHenry coach teams. So it's their Kickapoo's going to be really good this year.
Now, I think they played here in the last week or so, and I missed the result. Raj and Ozark, did they square off? Because I know there's some awfully good sophomore guards on those two.
Yeah, Rogersville won that game, I believe, like 60-55. Branham had a great game. Kylan Pickren is going to be one of the best players in the area if he's not there already. He went for like 25-plus. Great three-point shooting night. So they could meet in the semifinal of the Blue Division again. And that was, if that lives up to what the last game was, it's going to be really fun because Ozark took Central to overtime at the Republic Invitational to start the year. Ended up losing that, but I know a lot of people have circled that team. Jamie Donnelly going over there, and they have a lot of talent. Whether it's Hudson Roberts and Kylan Pickren. That's a hard name to say for me for whatever reason. And then and then they have a big guy underneath. So this is that's going to be a pretty good game if we get it again.
Didn't touch on much the four seeds on each side, Hillcrest and Stratford. What can you tell me about those two?
Hillcrest is scoring a lot. They scored like 80-plus points in their first 3-4 games. They ran into a tough matchup here recently to where they fell for the first time this year. They have a couple tougher games going into the tournament. They just lost 68-53 to Republic last night. To where they're playing some tougher teams going into this. Play Parkview on Friday night before the Blue and Gold, so they're trying to get some challenges there. To where they're going to have to go up against probably a Fair Grove team that might be a little underseeded because of how much it had out because of football. When they went under state championship run, we'll see how good Fair Grove is by the time you get there. In Stratford, you got Cody Voicey still over there, as good of a shooter as there is in the area. They got some big guys around him as well. So that Greenwood Stratford game, I don't believe is a district game anymore. So that could be a fun one come quarterfinals for the right to play Nixa probably in the semifinal.
Any upset alerts on the first round in either division that you kind of think, maybe?
Bolivar's one that you always watch. I really like what they do. I really like the coaching. Robbie Hoy over there. They had a pretty good early season win. He knows how to coach in this tournament. They got Camdenton. Camdenton's kind of an unknown, being kind of more of an out-of-area team now that it's playing most of its games in the Jeff City, Columbia. That's kind of one that I watch, and Lebanon's able to shoot a lot of threes, but it gets matched up with Kickapoo in the first, with Nixa in the first round, so you don't really throw a lot of stock at that one. So I don't see too many upsets in the first round. Aurora, I think kind of an 8-9 looking game when you look at Willow Springs and Aurora. Aurora's got Cannon Thornhill, a really good shooter, probably the best player in that game, and that can give them a leg up for the right to go play a 1 seed in the quarterfinal.
Yeah, I think, just to liven things up with Missouri allowing sports gambling at some point in 2025, you should set lines on all the blue and gold matchups and have them include those in DraftKings or one of the sports books. That'd be fun, wouldn't it?
I did that a few years back when I was just playing with different ideas for high school football.
Uh-huh.
I had a vote that you could go do and they set some lines that fans could go vote and decide decide what was going to happen. And I got some angry emails over that, especially from teachers for whatever reason. And it just wasn't get to read it. It was something I was trying, but I ended up dropping that pretty quickly.
Yeah, I don't think. Even though the apocalypse, what's that?
Well, you don't want to, and you also when you have Nixa going up against somebody, you don't want to throw, hey, you're a 32-point underdog, buddy, to these kids. So it was worth dropping.
Well, and he doesn't mind me telling the story because it was a rocky start to our relationship. But when Mark Fisher was coaching Greenwood back in the early 90s, they had Hurley come up and play on a Saturday. And Greenwood beat him pretty handily. And Fish told me, well, at least they got free Bears tickets this afternoon. And apparently that was off the record, but it actually made the record. And yeah. So you do anger the folks out there. I remember when the who was it? Ludi, one of the Dora. I called Dora the Explorers for their nickname on radio one time, and had an entire town mad at me. So you do have to be a little cautious, huh?
All 12 people.
Exactly. Yeah, and so I see your point. You do have to be careful. I was a little flippant in that stuff early on, and I learned pretty quickly. So, switching gears to the pink and white.
I got one. I got one for you.
Yeah.
So I was messing around on Twitter like I like to do a few years back, and I decided to tweet, we should put Lake Academy in this tournament every once in a while. There's just a sick part of me that wants to see them play a team like Clever. I'm thinking of the smallest school I could think of. And then, little did I know, in the other gym, Nixa was setting the three-point record against Clever. That made Clever look like it just have a really bad start of a really bad season. And all 15 people from Clever were just coming at me because, like, wow, could you do that to those kids? I'm like, I was just thinking of the smallest team possible. I'm sorry. So,
you've got to pick one at least an hour and a half away from Springfield proper. And make it somewhere that you will never have your car break down there because you're never driving through that area. Because, the old sheriff from Porky's may show up if you, you're Wyatt Wheeler, huh? Yeah, and I used to tease Ned about that in his magazines where I don't think he still makes picks in there anymore, predictions, or maybe somebody else does. But, Ned, you better not break down in Ava, or you better not – hope you don't get pulled over on 60 near Kabul, things like that. But you do have to kind of, know where you are in those areas. And yeah. Pink and White Lady Classic, December 27th, 28th, 30th, and 31st. That will be Friday, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday. They always finish on New Year's Eve afternoon there. Interesting that the Pink and White, of course, held at Drury University and Weiser and the O'Reilly Center, has gone to an all-area format for the first time. They used to bring in, one time I think there were 4 teams from out of state that came in, kind of a mini girls TSC type format. Then I think they cut down to a couple. Your thoughts on this? I don't mind it. I like it. It kind of makes the Pink and White the girls' version of the blue and gold.
Yeah, there was nothing worse than going to a championship day and having to write a story about Greenwood Northwest out of Arkansas or whatever, or just North Side, whatever. So I was really in favor of this. I think it just makes it the tournament that you want it to be when you're trying to figure out the best teams in the area a month in the year. So. Really happy that that SPS decided to make that move, and you have some worthy teams in here going up that are going to compete for championships. Fair Grove during this run hasn't won during the current state championship dominance run it's on, hasn't won a Pink and White. Kickapoo is as good as it gets in the area still. Nixa would have won a Pink and White last year if it didn't run into one of those powerful out of area towns, and I don't think the interest is there for just kind of those out of area teams to where you get a really good Kickapoo versus Stratford matchup in a championship, but people are going to show up and make that a lot more fun than it has been in years past.
Yeah, your pink top 5 seeds are Kickapoo, Stratford, where's my 3? Skyline, Rogersville, and Republic. And then in the white division, you've got number 1 is Fair Grove, as you mentioned there, and of course, very apropos there. Nixa at number 2 seed, El Dorado Springs at number 3, Marshfield at 4, and Glendale at 5. So You okay with all those, or are those kind of what you would have done as well?
Yeah, those were. I was good with those. Part of those conversations as well. You're going to see some matchups where you could probably have flipped them, whether it's seeing Stratford play against Skyline in a semifinal when those two had been really good matchups in the Mid Lakes over the years. You also see Republic and what it is. It's been so good in this tournament. Chris Flood for years now having a brand new coach and a 5 seed trying to go up against a really good up and coming Rogersville team that has a great trio of juniors that have been among the area's best since they were freshmen. So I have no problems with the seeding. I think there are some really good teams that are going to challenge for the title, and I'm happy to see this.
I know Michaela Pilley is off to a great start with Kickapoo. Had a phenomenal junior year too, and they're the number 1 seed. What's she got around her, and are they the dominant girls team, at least in the large schools?
Yeah, I would expect Kickapoo to be the dominant team. Pilley's as good as it gets. She has been since her sophomore year. Just on the offensive and defensive side, she might even be a better defender than she is offensive. I know she just scored, I believe, her 1,000th point the other night. She's got Josie Salazar next to her. I think she's a great young guard that's really going to make a name for herself. Kind of started to at the end of last season before their state runner-up run. Just an athletic player that could take over some games. So I'm really excited about her. But no, Kickapoo is going to be Kickapoo Nixa when you're looking at the COC, when you're looking at that district. Those are the two teams you're watching for runs to a state semifinal appearance.
I apologize, I don't know the brackets on these, but I assume there's is Walnut Grove's got a girls tournament, right? I think Neosho, do they still do their boys and girls tournament? I don't know what's out there anymore.
Yeah, I keep the focus on these two. I know Walnut Grove has theirs every year.
So good small school teams out there.
Yeah, you're keeping an eye on those. But yeah, this is the one that everybody wants to be in and try to win. And I got to watch Stratford the other night, and they're the 2 seed in the pink division. Could end up against Kickapoo in a championship. And Dustin Larson's daughters are worth the price of admission. Elsie, she's a junior. She's coming off a Class 3 Player of the Year finish as a sophomore. She's had Division I looks since her freshman year, and her sister is a freshman, and I believe is averaging over 20 points per game right now. Just can shoot lights out. Already a comfort at this level. Division I looks, and those two. There's just something about being a Stratford head coach where you have to have incredible daughters on the floor. We saw with the
Franks,
the Frank sisters. So it's the Stratford is worth watching as they move up to Class 4, getting out of Fair Grove's class and just trying to regain that dominance that we saw over the years.
And of course, one Frank's playing professionally now. The other one's in coaching, I think, too, isn't she? Maybe?
I think so. I think you got that right. I believe when I was at the Fairgrove and Stratford football game, Fairgrove announced the teacher of the week was the Frank, one of the Frank twins.
Okay.
They're like, we love her. She's ours. And Stratford was like, I could hear the Stratford people laughing, and I don't know if they booed her at all, but that's that's one of theirs. But I think she's over at Fairgrove right now, teaching in some capacity. And not too sure I'm not sure if she's on that sideline, but it wouldn't surprise me.
I want to throw up pretty much at everything going on in college sports right now. With transfer portal and NIL, and it's hideous. It's sickening. This is not what they intended when kids needed to be. earn some money for the schools using their name, image, likeness. But sitting behind a high school coach at a game here recently, and he had indicated that it's killing the high school athlete in terms of getting an early offer from colleges, whether it's baseball, basketball, football, because every one of these schools is living in the portal now. They're shopping for the kids that have already started that process somewhere else and maybe weren't good enough or looking for a better opportunity. And I think Michaela Pilley, because here's a kid that 5-10 years ago, she'd have multiple offers here locally, and she ends up signing with Fort Hays State because she wanted to get done with the process, and a kid now has got to be overly patient and willing to wait till April, May, whatever of their senior year because those college coaches are going to hold them off on seeing what's in the portal. Do you agree?
Yeah, it bums me out because it's so hard to track right now, and it's so changing every day. And we've heard about this, and everybody wanted to blame it on the fifth year for COVID and everything too, because that was just making rosters have to wait to try to get some of those more experienced players and everything, and high school athletes were having to go through the Division II JUCO routes to try to get in. And then that clears up, and here's another thing that comes around that's hurt high school kids. So, yeah, it's unless you're Jackson Cantwell, it makes life really difficult, and you're seeing, and even these area kids are going to they might feel offended that they weren't recruited by their hometown team out of high school in the first place and decide to go somewhere else. And when they're just playing the game that everybody else is playing, trying to upgrade their rosters, and you can't really have that. You can't really have that grassroots program at some point. So some teams are going to try to do that, and you see Missouri State here recently. It develops a running back who turns into who they're going to rely on for the next few years as their starter. He's in the portal. He transfers back home to North Texas when Ryan Beard was really going to count on that. So it makes everything so difficult. But how I've just kind of tried to roll with it and then covering it. It's a bummer for a lot of these high school kids that probably would be needing some development at the next level. Maybe not play right away, but they have to go develop at a lower level. Trying to get the process over with, knowing that they have a spot there. So it's a bummer.
Well, and I will qualify that by saying, number one, Fort Hays State's a very good Division II program and has been for years. And number two, with the system the way it is, on the flip side, a kid like Pilley's got a chance to go play there, play well, and then come into the portal and see if she can go to, closer to home or a D1 or whatever, which, like we mentioned earlier, Braden Shorter may be on the verge of doing that at Washburn. A kid that's a 6'5", 6'6" guard that can shoot it. There's some D1s out there in the Power 5 world that could use one of those, and we'll probably, I would say, start tampering any minute now, when they see it's those 25-point games and things like that. So let's...
it doesn't even... The tampering, I mean, you just send an agent after them now, too.
Yeah.
As weird as it is to say they have agents, and these agents are trying to get on as quickly as possible with these kids, to where agents are contacting Missouri State football players. Once they realize, hey, you're having a couple good weeks here at the FCS, get ready. We're going to try to get you to a higher level. It's gross, and you feel for coaches, you feel for kids, you feel for having to move around and everything, and it's a mess. And I don't know. Everybody says it needs to be governed, but there's so much that has to be done before then. It seems like too.
I've got a good question. It might be a story idea for you, but that whole APR, the academic progress rate, is that just shot to crap now, or do they even care anymore? Can they even track it with all the movement of kids at a school now?
Well, I've had to cover that the last few years because Bobby Petrino, when he came to Missouri State, really, you saw what he did in the transfer portal to try to make Missouri State competitive, and of course, he was able to go make playoff appearances his first two seasons. a lot of those kids entered the transfer portal and didn't finish up their degrees where they went, or didn't finish up the semesters and when they were at MSU, and just dipped to where what you do at other schools can negatively impact you. So they're still trying to keep in touch with like players that have transferred to make sure that they are graduating, like they are progressing towards graduation. Like a player that might have moved from MSU 2 years ago, you're still being counted for them where they are now in some cases.
If they can find them. Yeah, I mean, that's the key.
If they can find them.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Yeah, and it's just you're trying to, and you see how MSU recruits sometimes. You're seeing them have to recruit these walk-ons and trying to just get some smart kids in there that just kind of try to play the system and try to, I don't want to say they're messing with the numbers, but they're doing what they have to do to. Right now, they in previous years they would have been ineligible for the postseason because of their APR, but they got some relief because of all this mess to where they lost some practice time to where they're having to go to do study hall instead. So MSU's been punished this past season at the very least, and I know. They've been pumping out their grades and everything all the time to kind of show, hey, we've got better academics than what the APR is going to say. But that's a real problem at Missouri State, and I'm sure a lot of other places too.
And there's so many kids going to the portal now. I think I saw a stat where there's a very high percentage that wind up nowhere. And so, if they don't go anywhere and they're done with college, they're all counting against their former school or their original school, aren't they, for the APR?
I'm sure it is. It's a weird system that from talking to Kyle Motes about it and over the last few years, because it's been a problem at MSU. It's just talking about this needs to change. They need to make some kind of adjustment to this. When it's been it hurt football this past year when they were not given the amount of practice time that they are used to getting.
We've talked a lot of preps here, and that was the point, but a couple quick thoughts on Missouri State Bears and Lady Bears. The Bears are 5-5 going into a game against Lincoln tonight as we're taping this on Wednesday of this week. Lady Bears 7-3, won 3 in a row. They've got Southern Miss at home on Friday at the Gizba. Your thoughts on both Bears and Lady Bears programs, about where you thought they'd be at this point?
Yeah, you've got the identity from Conzo. I don't think they're the most talented. They need some pieces to be competitive once they get to Conference USA. I think they're not going to be a last place team in the Valley, and they're going to challenge some. They're going to be able to beat some good teams. They'll lose a lot of close games probably, and even the wins that they have will be close, and that's what we've seen throughout this early season. I like Conzo. I like the direction they're going. I think that was a needed change. So I just kind of looking ahead towards what they're going to do and where they need a rim protector, some more talent. They have some good guards. They probably need a better upgrade at the wing. I'm anxious to see what they do. The Lady Bears have a lot of potential that I still think they're trying to tap into. A lot of younger players kind of coming up right now, whether that's Kara Daniels is a great guard that should be one of the better players on the team for the next few years. Kaylin Beckemeyer is starting to turn into a really good player. When she's turned into a great defender, probably better than what she was at Republic, and starting to score a little bit more. But they have a lot of pieces, and I think so highly of Beth Cunningham that they're going to be in that Valley mix when it's a pretty good Valley this year, women's basketball. So anxious to see what goes on there. I think the men's team is probably I wouldn't be surprised if they get the Friday. They win a game on that Thursday, get the Friday, bow out. You just see what Drake's doing with Ben McCollum right now being a national story, and Bradley being as good as it is. So there's a lot to watch over these next few months, and I'm very interested to see how some of this goes.
Missouri State football, kind of last thought on that. They finish up 8-4. They would lose their first 2 and their last 2, 8 games in the middle. Expected the last 2 number 1 and number 3 teams in the country, and the Dakota State's teams up there. How has the offseason been so far, Ryan Beer and the Bears? Has it been a good portal? Are they still that grade's still out there? What would you say?
It's still out there. I like the I've seen the upgrades in the recruiting that they've been able to get as far as some of these freshmen that they're going to bring in. Transfer portal still a work in progress. Haven't really landed a true transfer portal player from another school. I don't know how much money they're going to have to be able to throw out at some of these guys. I think they're going to use a lot of that and try to keep Jacob Clark. I would like to see more defensive lineman targets. I think they're doing a pretty good job at trying to get bigger and targeting these bigger schools. Transfer portal along the offensive line when that's as big of a need as they have. I think they need to stress defensive line a little more. And they're really going after corners right now, too. They have a couple starters enter the portal to where they're trying to get a little longer and more athletic at the head as well. So they have a lot of work to do. I think those last 2 South Dakota State, North Dakota State games really showed you kind of where their gap is. When you're looking at when you look up front, that's just it's going to be a different animal at FBS, and they have a lot of work to do to get good on both sides of the ball.
Well, of course, one of our favorite times every year is the Bass Pro Tournament Champions, 40th edition this year. We'll be sad not having Dr. Edsel Matthews around, the guy who formed that tournament back in 1985, and of course he passed away last month. Just a great person, great leader, great human being. Link Academy back this year. They started the year preseason number 1. I had Coach Myers on, I believe, last week on this podcast. They've dropped a couple games, but are you excited to see the Lions back at the TSC?
Yeah, that's a team you want to see there quite frequently. That's Southwest Missouri's powerhouse, and they're going to have 5-star kids on that roster all the time, and just excited. That's one, and you enjoy the people around that program as well. So happy to see them back and see if they can kind of get going a little bit more than these early season some of these early season losses when they came into the year touted as the number 1 team in the country by some outlets.
I thought you kind of atoned for your earlier mistakes with the slam dunk contest judging this past year. You're pretty confident you can get to another one and know your 10s from your 9s from your 6s this year?
Yeah, that's a mistake I will take to my grave. It'll be on my tombstone. It's if it wasn't for hanging out with you on Mondays on the jock sometimes, that's probably all I would be known for in Southwest Missouri. So it's a redemption tour every single year, and nobody will let me forget it. Even Abby, when she said yes, when I proposed to her, she said, "Am I going to be known as the wife of the person who messed up the slam dunk contest years back?" And I said, "It's what you're going to have to live with." So it's
a daily grind, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really is.
It keeps me up at night. It still keeps me up at night.
You know, I think this year when we do the pictures of, I put together the program for Josh Scott and those guys, and very appreciative that they let me do that. I think there needs to be a picture of you judging maybe in the tournament highlights from last year just to show people that you're back and stronger than ever. So we'll see if we can make that happen, okay?
Photoshop a dunce hat on my head or something like that. That was... It hurts.
Don't give me ideas. So, hey, Wyatt, appreciate your time. Always enjoy catching up with you. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to you and yours and Abby, and just always enjoy talking sports, and I'll see you over at the Blue and Gold.
Sounds great. I love talking to you, and you have a great holiday.
Thanks, Wyatt. Closing segment in 3, 2, 1. That's going to do it for another edition of Around the Ozarks Sports Scene. As always, appreciate you tuning in. Thanks to Wyatt Wheeler for his time as we caught up on all things basketball and a little bit of football, too. Always fun to have Wyatt on and talk about everything going on in the Ozarks because he is the one-man show of the News-Leader, and we appreciate him. So also appreciate our sponsors, Fast Break Sports over on South Campbell. You got some last-minute Christmas gifts you need to get, go over to Fast Break Sports for those collectibles, those football, basketball, baseball cards, team memorabilia. They've got it all at Fast Break Sports. And looking for a great meal while you're shopping, kind of give you a break and have a nice cold beverage and some great pizza or subs or whatever you want. They've got it at The Pitch over in the Southern Hills Shopping Center on East Sunshine. The Pitch Pizza and Pub is your place to go relax, have a great meal, watch some sports, and enjoy your time with your family. So I want to wish Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all the listeners. This will be our last show before 2025. Hope everyone has a safe holiday, and thanks again for tuning in.